thought I would have my first kiss at summer camp. Also, never thought it would be my last. It was my second year attending Camp Willowdale. It was the usual fun in the sun's start to any preteen summer. Reconnecting with old friends, gross cafeteria food, outdoor activities, and of course, the retelling of the classic Camp Monster ghost stories. Especially the one about the Mauler, the monster boar man that haunted our nearby woods. But this year was a bit different. They had opened a girls' camp across the way called Camp Banshee, but we didn't have any affiliation with them, so no one really cared. One day, while taking some newbies out on a monster hunt for the legendary Mauler, I wandered off the path to get ahead of the group to scare them. It's a time-honored tradition here at Camp Monster. I remember being scared out of my mind when I went on my first monster hunt. I didn't see the harm in keeping the tradition alive. Only problem was, when I went off the path, I somehow got lost. Classic. As I made my way deeper into the woods, trying to find my friends, it felt like someone was watching me, following me even. I kept looking back in hopes to see someone, but all I would ever see was the rustling of leaves, like the wind was trying to sneak up on me. I continued on, only getting more lost. The feeling of something coming closer and closer to me became more present than ever, and then it happened. Something reached out and grabbed my shoulder. I turned, screaming, falling on my ass to see a girl. But not just any girl. She was stunning. She stood there laughing at me as I blushed, sitting in the dirt. She helped me up and told me her name was Sarah, and that she was from Camp Banshee. We found a nearby log and fumbled our way into getting to know each other. I felt hypnotized by her, like I could talk to her forever. She asked me about Camp Willowdale and why they called it Camp Monster in the first place. I told her about the legend of the Mauler and that all great monster hunters come from our camp. That it was really all just a big joke we told all the new kids to scare them. As I told her all of this, she had taken a hold of my hand. She then said to me, "You should be more afraid of me than some legend about a half-pig man named the Mauler." She leaned in closer and asked, "You ever kiss a girl before?" I couldn't believe what was happening. I never thought I could be so fortunate to be so lost. It was my first kiss. We scooted closer to each other, leaned in, our lips about to touch, and then... "What do you think you two are doing?" A Camp Banshee counselor had come out of the woods and caught us. She clearly knew I didn't belong there. It was strange, though. Sarah didn't seem scared as much as annoyed. Then, it got stranger. The counselor looked at Sarah and said, "You're not one of our girls. Who are you?" And then I heard an eerie sound. The sound of bones clicking together. I saw that Sarah's hand had morphed into a matted, blood-covered animal's claw that she then punched through the counselor's chest in one quick blow. She pulled her claws back and then held the counselor's still beating heart. Sarah wasn't from Camp Banshee. She was the Banshee. Before my very eyes, she shape-shifted into a towering creature. Her body nearly built like a bear, but her face was skeletal, with a jutting jaw of razor-sharp teeth that were now devouring the counselor's no longer beating heart. Blood drizzled down her gaping maw and down her black, fur-covered chest. I was paralyzed with fear as I saw the Banshee in full form. Her heavy hooves beat the ground hard as she made her way to me. She let out a roar of 1,000 souls devoured, screaming for help, her stinking breath upon me, her mouth opening, unhinging her jaw to take me all in. I decided it was all over. I closed my eyes and accepted the fate of my first crush. But before the Banshee could take a bite out of me, something rushed out of the brush and smashed her against a tree. I rubbed my eyes to see a giant boar-like monster squealing with excitement as it pulled its blood-soaked tusks free from the Banshee's chest. It was the Mauler. The legends were true. The Mauler rushed his tusks into the Banshee over and over again, prying apart her chest, pulling parts of her ribcage away, digging deeper and deeper into her as he unveiled her insides. It was incredible the strength it had. The Banshee took hold of one of the Mauler's tusks, slowly snapping it off from its upper mouth. It took the tusk and stabbed out the pigman's right eye. The Mauler squealed in ear-wrenching pain as he let go of the Banshee and fell to the ground. The Banshee walked over to the Mauler, crushing the deceased counselor's head in with her hooves along the way. She picked him up like he weighed nothing and raised his face above her mouth. She unhinged her skeletal jaw and opened wide, roaring an explosive growl. But just as she was about to clamp down over his head, he awoke with a guttural squeal and took hold of her mouth. He grasped it tightly, pushing it further and further apart, the Banshee's teeth sinking into his fleshy hands, blood pouring from the punctured wounds as he pried her mouth apart, eventually giving way to a crack heard across the whole camp over as the Mauler completely ripped apart the Banshee's jaw. Her vacant eyes rolled back in her skull, and she collapsed to the ground, dead. The Mauler turned its attention to me. He still held the Banshee's jaw in his claws. I couldn't tell if I was next or if we had developed some sort of understanding. Before I could decide, someone spoke from out of the woods. A man. He simply said, "Come along," to the creature in front of me. The Mauler dropped the Banshee's jaw and followed the old man into the woods, as if nothing had happened. I stood in complete shock, watching them disappear. Before I thought to leave, I kicked the Banshee's broken mouth back at her corpse, only her body wasn't there anymore. The last thing I remember hearing was the sound of bones clicking against each other. Talk about a first kiss.